Welcome to the Kearns podcast. We discuss real estate investing, entrepreneurship, and business to help you retire and become financially free. Make sure you share this podcast with someone who could benefit from it and leave us a 5-star review. It truly helps me out. This show will mentor you towards financial freedom. If I can do it, so can you.
What's up, everybody? Today on the Kearns podcast, I've got Stella Han. She's the dynamic CEO and co-founder of Fractional, a groundbreaking platform that is revolutionizing the real estate investing industry by making it accessible. Stella, I'm going to let you talk all about it. I know you told me raised millions of dollars in capital. She's very young, and I wouldn't have ever guessed how young she is. I'm just going to say that because it's visually there, but like what you've accomplished in 4 years is impressive. You want to tell us, everybody, about your company and what you started and why you started it?
Yes, of course. Well, Troy, thank you so much for having me here today. Super excited to share my journey and, hopefully provide a lot of value to all the listeners around raising capital. So I'm Stella. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Fractional. Just turned 28, as Troy mentioned, but, still a work in progress, here to continue to make impact. And what we're building at Fractional is a revolutionary platform that just makes raising capital and running deals stupid simple. And a lot of this actually, came from my personal experiences of raising capital. So I got into the real estate game a little bit over 6 years ago. Did my first deals actually by investing with partners. So I was basically the OPM for other experienced investors, but that was such a game changing for me because, I live in the San Francisco Bay Area. It costs $1 million to buy a shack here. And I was like, how do I do out of state investing? I didn't really know how any of that worked. And I was really scared. So it made a huge difference to partner with people who knew what they were doing, where I could put in, a smaller check and really learn the ropes by doing it with people who had my back. So that's how I did my first deal, started scaling a lot from then on. And like a lot of real estate investors, I eventually ran out of my own money. And I was like, man, I want to buy more. Like, I'm tapped out. How do I do this? And I'm like, okay, I think I need to raise capital. And I had a lot of family, friends, past coworkers who, had been in touch with like what I've been doing. And they were really excited about the opportunity to invest with me. But they weren't accredited investors. No one had like 100K that they could just give me. And people had smaller checks. Like they had 25K, 50K. Some people even had, just 10K, right? So I was trying to basically coordinate like 50 people within my close network, getting all their money together so that we can buy a multifamily project. And that was just an absolute shit show from like a coordination perspective. Like dealing with that many investors, coordinating all of that, trying to get everything set up legally. And then there's all this back office work. Like it just drained me completely. Like I was like, I'm here to grow my portfolio and work on investing. But now I like signed up for all this other stuff that I didn't want to deal with. And I actually had like shit hit the fan for me 2 days before closing. Half my investors that verbally said yes to me didn't send their funds. And I basically had to lose my EMD and lost that deal. Like it was just the most chaotic first fundraising process ever. Me, I come from a software engineering background. I used to be a software engineer. I think that's when I had my immediate light bulb moment where I was like, man, like there's definitely a way to bring technology into the space where we can really just streamline the way that people raise capital, especially when they're coordinating with a lot of investors, and just make that super smooth, super fast. So that's actually why we created Fractional as a company, where we're providing all the infrastructure to make raising capital easy. So one, from a legal and compliance perspective, we handle all of that. So we create the LLC, we manage all the investors' commitments coming in. We even have this concept of like an earnest money deposit on the platform. So people actually have to put a deposit to lock in a spot to invest in your project. That way we make sure like everyone is serious. And what's really interesting, and I'm happy to dig deeper into this later, Troy, but everything on the platform, it's actually not a security. So that's how we're able to let any investor, especially non-accredited investors, be able to participate in partnering with other people and really opening doors here. So that's another really big unlock we're building. And then handling everything back office as well. So tax filings, K1 creation, automating profit distributions, you name it, right? So this way, for the operators, all they need to focus on is actually bringing the right opportunities, operating that, bringing in the investors who want to invest with them, and then just let us handle everything admin, logistics, compliance behind the scenes.
That is amazing. That is so impressive that you were able to take a major defeat that a lot of people would just be like, oh, okay, when you lose your earnest money, it could be a really good thing actually, right? Like you don't buy the project and some people could take it on the chin and be like, oh man, well, it wasn't meant to be. I'm going to be out of this industry, but you turned it just like any entrepreneur would. You turned it into a major win and you're like, where did I screw up and how do I make this better? And then you created this and then you used your core competency as a software engineer. So how did you architect what you decided to do here? I'm sure it's been kind of a work in progress, right?
Yeah, it has been. So we've been working on this since January of 2021. So a little bit over 4 years now. It's a pandemic baby. And it's definitely gone through a lot of iterations, my personal pain points, other capital raisers that we've been supporting on the platform. And, what we've seen has been the true unlock, is actually, that ability to start raising capital and starting a partnership as quickly as possible. So traditionally, a lot of people, when they're thinking about raising capital, they think about, structures like a syndication or setting up a fund, right? And those things, the startup time and the startup costs, it's so expensive and so consuming, right? Like if you're working with a lawyer, you're easily spending, 4 to 8 weeks, even just like coordinating the structure, getting all the docs together. And all of that is time away from like actually corralling your investors and getting, the interest and the money in to do the deal, right? And there's, a lot of red tape. Compliance is super important. So that's where, we saw like a really big value proposition that we could bring to the table is like a lot of capital raisers, they have a community, right? Like Pace Morby, someone who we work with, he's got a great and beautiful step two community, right? Troy, you've got one yourself too, right? So it's like, well, everyone is here to collaborate, to learn together. A lot of people are non-accredited. They want to invest, but they can't with a syndication or a fund, right? Like there's a lot of different requirements around that. So now it's like, not only are the traditional models expensive, it's time consuming, there's a ton of red tape, it also doesn't really promote access. So we're like, how do we really create a space where people can form joint ventures or investment clubs, structures where they're actually not securities and they really promote accessibility and collaboration, which ends up, going back to the community building part, right? So that was like the major insight that we had. But, traditionally with a joint venture or an investment club, because it's more active, it requires more coordination. So that's where we're like, okay, software engineering brings cells on, right? Like we can really bring technology here to make participating a lot simpler. So people can like vote on the platform. It's super simple. People can like chat with each other. And then now, you're really opening doors for access. You can bring in more investors. We're providing the whole infrastructure layer. And yeah, now this is a brand new form of ownership that, we'd love for more people to jump on.
I mean, it couldn't have happened at a better time for us to be doing this podcast right now. I just mentioned to you, like, we are literally just starting, finalizing our pro forma, and then we did a soft launch with. I'll break down the asset for you. So, you don't have this in San Francisco, I don't imagine, but in the Midwest, they have something called historical tax credits. I'm not sure if you guys have done these before, but basically on the office spaces here, 45, which makes another mechanism of investing in real estate, 45 cents of every dollar, and soon to be 55 cents on a nationally registered historic building can be sold from that asset back to the state and the federal municipalities, therefore making the cost of financing less, right? Because you're able to recapture some of that money. And so we're in the process of turning the building that I'm in into about 90 apartment buildings. And we're literally just getting ready to raise capital. And I'm going through that thing that you're talking about right now, where I got to get the attorneys, I got to get all the accreditation. And I'm like, I mean, this couldn't have, it's like God looking out for me, because it couldn't have happened at a better time. I'm telling you 100%. And I knew about what you guys did, but I didn't know to the level that you just explained it. So, okay. So if it's me and I've got this unit and I want to work with you, how does it start?
Yeah, so it is super simple. You obviously have a business plan, you've got your underwriting, all that is ready. So to start, it's literally just clicking a button that says start project on the Fractional platform. And then you get to put in your business plan, explain your vision, show people the numbers, right? And then input in what's the total raise amount. And then also, what's the minimum investment amount that you like investors to participate in? So generally on the platform, our minimum is actually just $5,000. So we're really about accessibility here, but you can customize it for each of your deals as well. Like, we've had some operators who are like, yes, I want to bring in as many people as possible. Let's keep it really low. We also have some operators that are like, I don't want to deal with too many cooks in the kitchen. Like, I want everyone to like actually have skin in the game. So they might go a lot higher, right? Like 50K, 100K, whatever it is, like you set what you think is the right minimum for each specific project. And then what we see work really well is actually hosting like a live Zoom call where you invite members of your community, investors in your network who are interested in partnering with you to this kind of live launch event. And then you can like walk everyone through your business plan, the numbers, and then your fractional project, it will go live during your Zoom call, where people can basically click the button, type in whatever they want to invest, pass through our identity verification. We make sure everyone is who they say they are. No one's a scammer or anything like that. And then they just submit their deposit right on the spot to just lock in that, they're committed in being a partner. So it's really, really simple. You don't have to go through the traditional, months of setup or the red tape around that. We actually have our legal team and compliance team structure all of that. We've brought on the former senior counsel of the SEC as part of our team. That's why we feel really great. Yeah.
You're a gangster. You are freaking, you are someone to watch out for. I can tell you that you're going to do major. I mean, you're already doing major things, but so Stella, okay, let's talk about like 401ks and stuff like that. Obviously, we know that a lot of investors are tapping into people's 401ks because it's, it's not really doing anything for them. How do you guys work with that? Have you guys identified that yet and have been able to work with that?
Yes, we have. Exactly to your point. We started getting that as a key feedback from a lot of our investors. They're like, hey, we want to use our 401k, our self-directed IRA. How does that work? So that's all an option. So when people commit to a project, as long as they pass their personal identity verification, that is a requirement. Like, we want to make sure no one's like hiding behind an entity or anything like that. So once they're personally verified, they can, choose to invest as themselves, as an LLC, using their 401k, SDRA, all that works. You just put in the information. If you have a checkbook SDRA, then obviously that's super streamlined. But if you've got, a custodian, you just connect us with your custodian. We'll be able to coordinate all the paperwork for that.
All right. So if I'm an investor, this is like a massive toolkit for me, because I mean, you're cutting a lot of the red tape. So with the lawyers and stuff like that, I don't need to hire a private placement memorandum an attorney or anything like that. Like, you guys got it covered.
Yeah, we got it covered, because this isn't a security. So you don't need, a 506B, 506C. You're not setting up a fund or anything like that. So you don't need a PPM. Obviously, you should still explain what your business plan is and the numbers, right? So people can understand like why they want to partner in it. But everything we're doing on the platform, it's either a joint venture or it's an investment club.
Got it. So you're saving significant costs there that way, and you're getting away from a lot of red tape, Stella. So what is the cost to a guy like me? Are you guys, and how does that pencil in? Because I'm sure you guys are a business, you have to make money.
Yeah, great question. So Fractional as a company, we don't make money unless a raise is successful and a group is actually, moving forward on partnering on an opportunity together. So there's like no harm in trying. Like we always encourage people to just spin something up and just see what kind of traction that they get. Once a group does move forward, so their raise is successful, we have a transaction fee that is paid by each of your funding investors. So they're paying 2% of whatever they're investing. And that covers all the legal setup, the compliance. It covers everyone, sending their money through the platform, all of that, identity verification. And then we also do automation on our end to do investor follow-up. So just kind of helping the operator herd the cats with like text follow-up after their Zoom call, things like that. So that's all covered in the 2% transaction fee.
I am impressed. I mean, I think you're probably one of the smartest people I've talked to, and I'm not trying to say that to shine you on. I think that so like I'm in. Like I'm gonna get with you guys and we could talk offline a little bit about it. I'm 100% and you couldn't have hit me at a better time. I'm literally like I bought the building about 3 years ago, and then I just decided to do it. I've been thinking about it, and I was like, all right, it's time to go. And we're like literally right in the middle of it, so it couldn't happen better. So a couple follow-up questions, and I want to talk about some personal stuff with you.
Yeah.
So what's your nationality?
I am born and raised in the US, but my parents are Chinese.
Okay. So I was guessing that just because of your last name, but so are you familiar with the EB5 vehicle?
Yep.
Are you guys? So that's one thing that I'm looking to tap into as well, because as you know, the minimum investment for EB5 on just the short end is like I think $1 million. And I think 6,000, there was 6,000 or 6,600 of them that came from China last year alone. So are you guys trying to, like, from a broader spectrum, trying to tap into that? Is that on the radar at all?
Yeah, that's a great point. So for us, we're more focused as being just a platform. So, helping operators streamline all of this. But, for someone like you who's got this genius idea, right? Like if you are bringing in and unlocking that market for your opportunities, we would love to be able to support that.
That would be cool. That would be something to mention because there's a lot of compliance when it comes to that as well. As I'm
Yeah.
sure you can imagine, because you're getting a green card, and they're basically the interesting thing about that is, Stella, is that a lot of these people are with bad operators, because a lot of the people that have gone through the EB5 program, they are just focused on the green card, and they're like, well, if I
Right.
just make the investment, I don't really care if I make any money. But if you can partner with, like, hey, I'm a great investor, and then I can get my people a great investment, and you get your green card, it's like a win-win-win-win. So,
Yeah.
I'm just curious if you guys, because there is a lot of compliance in that, but I would love to talk to you a little bit about that as well. So, where do you see your future after you get this thing rolling and rolling and rolling? You're obviously interested in investing in real estate. Like, now that you have this thing and you've kind of taken a right turn in terms of where you were going, like, where do you see your future?
Yeah, well, so when my co-founder and I started building the business, our like grand vision was that, people would be able to use Fractional to start any sort of business venture, own any sort of asset, right? In this sort of co-ownership model with their community. So that's what we had in mind. And we actually kind of hit our first milestone with that, because now people are leveraging Fractional to do business acquisitions. Obviously, I think it's a pretty close asset to real estate, which is, really, really interesting. But that's been, a major milestone for us, because it's like, we're now one step closer to the big grand vision that we had. So really excited to, grow out that vertical and then kind of see what's next.
I see you like on Shark Tank or like possibly going public. Is that something that you're looking at? I mean, you're in the Bay Area. We know like you're smart, super smart, like way smarter than I was at 28 years old. So like now that you have access to all this information, you're in San Francisco. It's probably one of the biggest financial hubs besides New York City for going public. Is that something that you guys are looking at in the future?
Yes, that would be the dream. Is to have a public exit. That we would certainly love that. And that's
Oh,
why
it's happening. It's happening. I promise you that. I can see it's happening 100%.
I love it. Let's do it together.
Hey, listen, I'd be absolutely happy to be an early founder. I think your idea is genius, and I mean, I think you're going to have a lot of obstacles, just like any company. But the way that you're going about it, and as fast as you're moving, like you said, because I'm sure there's some sort of other background play I would expect from a software company because it's user data, right? Is there something that you guys are looking at from that? Because you have a lot of investor value, right? Nobody else is targeting that.
Yeah, it's definitely been something that's, in the back of our heads, not a priority right now, but eventually we've been thinking about, what would fractional look like if it was, even more of kind of like an open marketplace, right? So, something that we've noticed today already is, obviously there's really strong leaders like yourself. You've got an amazing network. People are doing deals with you. But a lot of times, people just find us on Google or, they see us on social media, and they don't have, a leader, an operator in their life that they can, work with. Like they don't carry that kind of existing relationship. It's really common, especially from my old world, right? Like a lot of software engineers, right? They traditionally invest in stocks, for example,
Absolutely.
and they're hearing, wow, there's like so many benefits with real estate investing, taxes. I mean, obviously the stock market these days also, is a little bit worrisome right now too. So
Right.
they definitely have their ears perked, right? And so they're coming into the platform and they're like, where do I start? Like, I don't really know anyone in my personal network to, invest with them, right? So it's like, how can we connect them with the right communities and the right leaders, the right opportunities on Fractional as well for the people that are, finding the platform where they don't have any sort of pre-existing relationship that can help them be successful.
So are you actively investing too, or is this kind of taken over your entire life? I would imagine it probably has.
It has taken over my entire life, but I am actively investing. I feel like that's actually the really cool part is like I feel like I can kind of double dip a little bit.
For
A
sure.
lot, yeah, a lot of leaders that, I love, like, they're hosting projects on there. So I'm like, oh my gosh, count me in. Like I'm also clicking that deposit button because I want to invest in those deals. So personally, I've grown my portfolio to just over 150 units. So yeah, still actively investing. I'm not boots on the ground like running my own deals anymore, but still actively participating in other people's projects.
Sounds like you found the right lane to be in, though. You know what I mean? Like everybody has like a lane. And it sounds like you found it really quick, what you're amazing at. So, okay, so how did you get the bug on real estate, and how'd you? So it's like you got the bug in real estate, you found it back, you tied it back in with like what your skill set was software. But how did you? It's a great marriage, right? But how did you get the bug with real estate?
Yeah, so my parents, they're software engineers by trade as well. And while I was growing up, they were flipping houses in the Bay Area. So I was
Awesome.
basically the cheap family labor. I spent a lot of my like weekends like going over to the properties. Like I remember like covering my nose because the paint smelled so bad, like the whole house smelled really bad. And I'm like trying to like help out and like run errands. We would like spend so much time at like Home Depot and Lowe's and all of that. But it was really, really awesome just like seeing my parents like to me, it felt like they were really taking their own destiny in their own hands with real estate.
Mm.
It was like they got to build something that they can control, they can bring back to the family and, end up creating more opportunities for me too. And that kind of like just like feeling like, you can conquer the problems and create the future for yourself. Like, I feel like that meant so much to me and that laid a seed in me in terms of like what I wanted to do with my personal finances. So I feel like just like very naturally after college, I started working as a software engineer and I was like, wait, I gotta like do something with my paycheck. Like, how do I invest in real estate? But, obviously it's hard for me to flip in the Bay Area with a new grad salary. Like that's obviously not gonna work. So I
Yeah.
was like, okay, well, everyone's talking about out of state investing. How do I get into that? So that's how I kind of got the whole itch around that and kicked off that whole journey.
They must be super proud of you. I mean, the fact that you've done this and then that they inspire. How'd they keep you so grounded? Like I've got kids, they're 11, almost 12. And, one of the things that like, I grew up very poor, so I had to drive, right? Your parents, obviously, they showed you the hard work. They're at the houses and they're doing that stuff. But at the same point in time, they probably had some money to be able to do that because they started building some over time. How were you able to keep so grounded? What kind of things did they do? Because what I see is a very mature, very driven young woman that I want my daughter to be like. And I'm trying to mean that is like I want my daughter to be like you, Stella, like because you're like somebody like that. Somebody should like they should be proud of you. You know what I mean? So what kind of parenting did they do to help that to facilitate that?
Wow, I feel like my parents would be so happy after hearing you say that. I think it's a lot of things. Like one, my parents are very action oriented, and I feel like just like seeing that, it just kind of put me in the environment where I feel like to myself, it's like, okay, if I as long as I take action, I
Mm.
will be rewarded. And I feel like having that kind of mindset has just helped me so much where like I'm not afraid to pull the trigger. And like
Yeah.
even if it ends up not working well or it's a mistake, I feel like they've kind of instilled in me this thinking where it's like, hey, even figuring out something didn't work is a success because now
Right.
you've unlocked an answer where it's like, okay, well, I know this isn't it. Let me like try the next thing. So like just seeing them operate like that, I feel like it's like deeply ingrained in me where it's like I always just should have a bias in action. Like let's just keep trying. And
Mm.
every no will eventually lead you to a yes. So I feel like that's how like I've made sure like I'm also grounded and just like focus on execution, block out the noise, like don't get distracted by like useless things and just yeah, I feel like at the end of the day it's around like building my own destiny just like how they have and just striving towards excellence and keep on iterating. That's why I always say like I'm a work in progress. Like I
Yeah.
want to keep growing and keep creating impact and just be able to really make a difference here.
Yeah, you're doing it, and I can tell. So for like your social life and stuff like that, we've talked to all business. Like, what does that look like for you now? Like now that you're 28 years old, are you planning on having a family, or is that on the horizon? Or are you still grinding for like the foreseeable future?
Still grinding for now, but definitely, what would love to have a family. So that's why like I feel like for me too, especially I'm like I really need to like create so much impact and just like 10x everything while I can still have laser focus on all of it. So yeah, definitely would love to have a beautiful family, getting there, building the foundations for that now. And then yeah, it just in my spare time, like I love music. I played violin growing up. And maybe that's part of it too, right? Like when you play a classical instrument, there's a lot of repetition. So I feel
Mm.
like that's why I'm not scared of grinding and I kind of enjoy the grit in the work that I'm doing too. So now I definitely don't play violin competitively anymore, but sometimes my friends they will like request me to make covers of like pop songs that they like. So that's kind of what I do on the fun side of Stella.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, I think you've got a lot of just like it's really cool. I've interviewed probably 200 people. You're probably one of the most fascinating people that I've talked to in a long time at such a young age too, because I think one of the things that's scary about like where we're at right now is just like a lot of people your age are not that driven. They don't know what they want, and like we're distracted, right? There's so many things like that are coming at us, and it's not their fault entirely. Like everybody grew up with a phone in their hands and they're
Right.
walking around with it, and so like how do you keep attention of investors like with all of these distractions? Is that kind of what fractional does?
Yeah, exactly. Like I think people get it right away after hearing, what we're bringing to the table that we're actually subtracting away all the distractions that they would have to traditionally deal with, right? Like literally we're telling them, hey, don't get distracted with like back office, don't get distracted with admin, logistics, legal compliance. Like we've got that covered, right? Like
Mm.
similar to how when I was scaling, I was here to scale. I was here to build my portfolio. I was here to, bring on the investors who want to work with me. I didn't want to deal with any of the other stuff, but I just had to, right? Because there was no other option. So for us, I would say, we're a distraction remover. So that's, I think like why people love this so much and, why they're able to focus and, really take scaling to the next level.
So what's been the biggest thing that you've learned in the last 4 years in your business? Like what, I mean, I'm sure you've made a lot, like from starting from, hey, I lost my earnest money deposit, to like, I'm going to go start this company. And then now it's how you've raised $500 million, did you say?
Yep.
I mean, that's a big journey, right? So, like, what has been the key takeaways that you've learned both in real estate software and in your journey?
Yeah, so I would say like a big takeaway that I've learned, and I'm also trying to get more capital raisers to learn that are on the platform too, is that, there's with capital raising, like the most important part is building your network and building your competitive edge, right? I think a lot of times, like when people initially think capital raising, like they're really focused on the details and they're asking like how and whatnot, right? But all that only really matters when you've got the who and you become like the unique entry point for
Mm,
people around you to get access to real estate, right? Um,
right.
like a lot of people are like really focused on like, oh my gosh, like what types of returns do I need to get that's competitive? Like, how does all this work and whatnot? Well, obviously it's great to have returns, but if you're just fighting with everyone else, then the competition is just never ending, right? Versus you're building a network of people where their only access to real estate is you because they trust you and they know what you're doing and they know your story and how you're operating and all the great case studies you have, right? So that's like the number one thing that I feel like I've learned outside of, the logistics and the details and, all of how those things work. Is like at the higher level, it's all about like what is your unique edge. I feel like that, it plays so well in capital raising. It plays into who I am as an entrepreneur and what I'm building to is like we all have our competitive edge. We need to find that. That's what we really hone in on. And that's how you can drive the most impact because that's how you get like product market fit, right?
All right. So, how do I become the number one raiser with your company, Fractional? Like, how do I beat the guys? Like you said, Pace has done a great job. So, I'm a competitive guy. Us men are driven by our egos, right? Like, so how do I go in full steam now that we're talking and dominate? Like, obviously, it starts with the first deal, but like, what I'm asking is, who's doing it really well? You had mentioned Pace, so I'm assuming that he's doing it really well. And what's he doing that's working really well besides having
Yeah.
a dynamite community?
Well, we always love a good friendly competition.
For sure.
But, I mean, it goes back to the network, right? Like Pace, obviously with the sub two community, like he's already got an audience of investors who trust him, want to invest with him. And a lot of times people in sub two, they are newer to the space. They might not have, a whole ton of capital, or even if they do, they might be scared to deploy, 200K all at once, right? So I feel like he's really tied in with what his community needs, what they see in him, and just connecting a lot of synergies together where it's like he's bringing opportunities, he's involving those people as partners to go in on those deals, and then up leveling them where now a lot of people in sub two are also raising capital for their own deals too. So it's all now just feeding into each other, right? Which is like
Right.
so beautiful. So
Ah.
yeah,
As
yeah.
they should, right? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
if you're learning from the teacher, then you should become the master at some point in time, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I feel like it just goes back to like what's, the unique value, what does your community need? What have you built with them already? And just tying that together, right? One thing that I really love is like the whole investment club product that we have. Um,
Yeah,
we've seen from a scaling perspective, a lot of times traditionally people will raise capital deal by deal, but
yeah,
a lot of times it's like your buy box, your acquisition strategy, or whatever your investment strategy is, it is actually the same. It is not changing deal by deal, right?
you're right. You're
Yeah,
100% right. Value add, value add, value add, value add.
exactly. So similar to, in the traditional world, there's a fund, right? Where a
Yeah.
fund manager has a larger thesis and then people are just funding or joining the fund because of this overarching thesis. You
Mm,
can do that in a collaborative style as well through an investment club. So, Troy, you could be like, hey, I want to do value add acquisitions. Here are, past deals that I've done that fit this criteria. Who
mhm.
wants to, let's pull like $20 million together and have that capital ready and let's just go buy, 10 of these, right?
Right.
And for the end investor, they also get it because when you have to raise deal by deal, you're just against the clock, right? Like a lot of things are on the line. So if you
Yeah.
don't want to miss out on a great opportunity, it's actually better that the club is formed beforehand, all the capital is ready to be deployed, you already have all the investors, and then you make it super collaborative and educational because in the club structure, people need to cast a vote to approve, like, yes, we do want to move forward as a club to fund property A. And that actually gives them a seat at the table where they can like look into the underwriting with you. And now they're being active, right? Like they're actually participating in the making and they get to learn how all this works too. Like I think education is such a unique thing to bring to the community because now like putting your money in a black box, I don't think that's hot anymore, right? Like everyone talks about Main Street, like everyone wants to, take back, and actually understand, right? Like what's going on in the market. So I think that's a huge way where it's like, not only are we doing things super compliantly, but you're actually opening up more education, more access, more transparency to your investors. And then you can raise a lot of more money, all in one go, and then just deploy that to deals that make sense with the buy box.
Very, very articulate answers. You got a big brain on you and you're very articulate. You know how to say it well. Stella, a follow-up question to that. So my goal, like yours, is to go public. So, when I start raising capital, because I've always done everything bootstrap myself, right? And you get to the point, as you know, as an investor, you run out of capital. And I'm like, well, I think I've been selfish that way and not wanting to ask other people for money, right? It's a pride thing, right? And so knowing that, okay, well, now we're doing our deal, which we're opening up to our community, which we've had a lot of interest in, and we're gonna go with you guys because it makes a lot of sense. Like I'm telling you, I mean, you've been transparent with this situation, and it cuts a lot of the red tape on my issues. So I want to go. We get our first deal done. We start our investment club. I want to go public. Have you looked at that for people like me, like in terms of a structure, how you're going to help people like me go public?
That we have not gone to yet, but that sounds super fascinating. I would definitely, love to work together on figuring out what that looks like. Even for us as a company too, right? Just as Fractional, we've raised money from venture capitalists, and everyone is always looking for a multiple and a potential exit. So going public is definitely something that we're considering too as a company. So yeah, I would love to work on it together, and I'm sure we'll figure out how to make that happen.
I met about 15 years ago. I don't know, maybe 15 years ago, probably. I met Bill. Do you know who Bill Gurley is?
Yep.
Yeah. So he's in your area, and I believe so still. And he's one of the number one things. But yeah, my goal the minute I started realizing I'm going to raise private capitals, I'm going to build a REIT. I'm trying to get there. Just like Sam Zell, if you've read the book that he put out. So it's exciting to talk to you. I think you've got huge things you have such a breadth of knowledge at such a young point in your life that I think you're gonna freaking light the world on fire. How do people get a hold of you? If like, let's say I want to invest, like number one, if you guys want to invest in my project, I will link it in my bio here once this podcast comes out. But if they're trying to get with you to set up, what website do they go to if they want to launch their own project?
Yeah, great question. So go to fractional.app. That's our website. Make an account. You'll immediately see a message from our concierge asking, if you're looking to raise capital or if you're investing in other people's deals. So just, tell them what you'd like to do on the platform, and then we'll connect you with our capital raising team to get that started. I'm personally on Fractional all the time. So, look up me on the Fractional platform. I'm on social media as well. On Instagram a lot. My handle is Hella Stella, keeping it California for everyone here. But yeah, reach out to me. Excited to work together.
Awesome. And speaking of California, are you still liking it there? I mean, I know that a lot of people are like evacuating. Your whole family's from the area. You grew up there. I mean, San Francisco is a beautiful place. I spent a lot of time there, but I know it has undergone some challenges. Are they cleaning the city up a little bit, or what's going on there?
Yeah, I am still liking it here. I feel like just I'm so rooted here where it feels really comfortable and great to be here. The city has definitely been going through its ups and downs. I feel like lately it's been on the up. We got a new mayor, things are more active. He's cleaning up a bunch of things. So yeah, I got high hopes and expectations. So we're hoping to get our beautiful city back.
What part of the town do you live in? I've been all around it.
I'm in Russian Hill.
Okay, cool. That is is that where the trolley goes to the top, right?
Yeah. Yep, exactly.
Okay, cool. Well, Stella, it's been such a pleasure to meet such a driven person. I truly mean that. I hope your parents hear this. They should be super proud of you. You got not only a bright future, you got a bright present. And so I think that if anybody is listening to this right now and they're not following you on social media, they should be, because like you want to put people like Stella in your circle. I can tell you that. It's all about proximity. I'm going to get close to her. I can tell you that, because like if you could be around smart people that are going a certain direction, like people should be around me if they want to get good at real estate. I'm damn good at it, but I'm not good at what she's good at. And so like, if you can be around somebody like Stella, get close to her, because she's going places. I can promise you that. And if you can get on her wake, amen. Right. So
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Troy. I will definitely be sending this podcast to my parents so that they can hear it from you.
Well, tell them to give us 5 stars and make sure that they subscribe while they're at it. You know, we'll grow one listener at a time. But yeah, it's been very much a pleasure to talk to such a driven individual. I appreciate coming on the podcast. Guys, make sure you give Stella a 5-star review. Make sure you take action. She's an action taker. She told you it's all about taking action. She turned the first failure into like a big success, and it's going to grow and grow and grow. And you can mark it. It's April something of 2025. And who knows what the future holds for her? I bet you she'll be going public in the future. Peace. Man, I am so happy that you turned into the Millionaire Mentorship Podcast. It's something that I've been working on for over 3 years right now. We're up to 150 podcast episodes. A lot of them are virtual. A lot of them are in studio, which is what we prefer. If you have a guest that you think that should be on our podcast, all you gotta do is comment who it is, and we'll reach out to them. Or if you want to reach out to them and reach out to us, we'd love to have them on a show. We're looking for entertaining, inspirational people that, just like you hear on the podcast every week, that can bring value and help our listening audience achieve their goals. If that's something for you, comment down below and let us know.